I'm your host, Davida Shinsky, and you're listening to Live Without Limits Dreams Come True with the Right Mindset. And this presentation is titled, Here's Why Your Past Mistakes Don't Own and Define You. Being upset with someone else for making a mistake is one thing, but being upset with ourselves is another. For a start, it is easy to sleep and to sleep peacefully if the mistakes were done by another. But sleep becomes very hard to find when you are the cause. And this was the situation that young Tony Sales found himself in. At the young age of 13, Tony started on his journey of crimes. He would carry out subscription scams, and solicit funds for causes that were all made up, and then he would pocket the money. Soon, he raised the stakes with credit card frauds, identity thefts, mortgage frauds, and so on. Before 16, he had amassed over $300,000 and stashed them all up under the bed because he was too young to be seen with such an amount of money. Soon he came of age and started buying all the things that he could only dream about years ago due to age restrictions, such as cars, expensive trips, and enjoyed luxurious life in general. In fact, he went on to get married and gave birth to a son. In general, it is estimated that he made about $12 million to $35 million during this time, earning him the title Britain's greatest fraudster. However, he was soon caught and everything was taken away from him. And while in prison, he had to watch his wife and son cry because of him. This broke his heart and taught him the lesson of life. Indeed, Tony made a huge a mistake that landed him in prison. But unlike what you might expect, Tony, though later regretting his actions, didn't throw away his past. He didn't try to bury it. He didn't see those days as wasted and worth sweeping under the rug, but rather embraced them. He embraced his past mistakes, so much so that he eventually became the director of strategic development at a company that helps businesses fight financial crimes. Though it sounds like an odd twist, it is actually logical. It makes sense. This is because to catch a thief, you need to think like a thief. You need to know what they know, what motivates them, and how they act or react. This is the same with all aspects of life. Disclaimers. I'm not proposing that we all become criminals or do terrible things, but that we realize that underlying reality, which is that we can all learn from our mistakes. In fact, without mistakes, there can be no lessons. And unlike school, life teaches its lessons backwards. Experience is a hard teacher because she gives the test first, the lesson afterward, said Vernon Sanders. Law. Your mistake could have been caused by your ignorance or monetary weakness. But whatever the situation, it is important to realize that how you see these mistakes determines how and to what extent they would affect your life. You are not your mistakes. The biggest problem with making mistakes, especially costly ones, is that we attach ourselves to the mistakes. True, we made mistakes, but we are not those mistakes. Tony, for example, knew that he had committed some crimes, but he also realized that they were because of his ignorance and weakness. And so he separated himself from it. He didn't see himself as a criminal, but as a kid who committed crimes. It sounds the same, but it's widely different. One associates the crime with who he is, while the other disassociates the crime from who he is. And because the crimes were distinct from who he was able to free himself from its chains. Whatever things that you did is not who you are. You are not your mistakes, and so you must not allow it to own and define you. Your mistakes could have been life's way of preparing you for something greater. And maybe you just need to overcome the guilt and shame to see the lesson and opportunities that it is presenting to you. Think about it. We most times find room in our hearts to forgive people who make mistakes and even hope that they learn from the repercussions that they may suffer. So why do we perpetually torment ourselves with our past? Would this be what someone who loves us would want for us? Is it something that we would want for someone that we care about? Surely we would want to give them another chance. Surely we would forgive them and not judge them anymore. This is why we must learn to let the past go. So, some practical steps that you can take to forgive yourself for your past mistakes and break the hold that they have on you. How to learn from your mistakes. Acknowledge the mistakes. The first step in redefining our lives is telling ourselves the truth. You must acknowledge that what you have done is wrong and that the repercussions are as expected. Denying or ignoring this fact is a surefire way to get stuck in the past. Accept the consequences. You would have to come to terms with the fact that what has been done has been done. You cannot change the past, and depending on the degree and type of mistakes that you made, you might have to live with the consequences for the rest of your life. But this too is okay and must be done. You must accept the repercussions of your actions. Amend your damages. If your mistakes are to be corrected, then it is your obligation to fix them. This could be as simple as accepting responsibility, going the extra mile to repair what was broken, and simply apologizing for your mistakes. It is a crucial part of this process of letting go. Appreciate your mistakes. Though unsavory, you must also learn not to beat up yourself for your mistakes, but to be grateful that you have made them. You must appreciate the fact that they have taught you the importance of not repeating them in the future. You have been blessed with experience by making those mistakes. Appreciate the mistakes that you didn't make. Why not push things a step further and be grateful for all the other terrible mistakes that you didn't make? Maybe your mistake would have been worse, like leading to the loss of life or the destruction of a human race entirely. But you are standing with people willing to forgive and move on. Accept forgiveness. The next step is to forgive yourself. You have to let go of the shame, guilt, and regrets because they were born from ignorance, weakness, or some other factor outside of your control. It is unfair to keep judging your past based on your current knowledge, understanding, and past, or rather, strengths. In reality, most people would do worse than you. So take comfort in this and accept forgiveness for yourself. Adhere to your values. Regret and shame arises when what we did in the past is misaligned with what we feel right now at the present. This means that the only reason we feel regret is because of what we value. In other words, to ensure that we don't repeat mistakes, we must make sure to outline and adhere to those values strictly. This is because if we can truly change our ways, then we can truly forgive ourselves, knowing that we no longer the same person that made those mistakes in the past. This is the greatest secret of letting go. And finally, aim at the future. The final step in freeing ourselves from the past is using those lessons to build a better future. You must transmute the lesson and experience to make a better life for yourself. For Tony, this would be to the point when he finally decides to fight crime. Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new, said Albert Einstein. It's cliche, but it's true. Throughout life, you would make mistakes, and there is nothing that you can do about this. Most of the mistakes would be small, but a few would be noticeable or even depressing. But they are all the same. They are all opportunities to learn and become better. Therefore, take comfort because your past mistakes don't own and define you. And remember this, that mistakes are just your way of learning to do new things. And always remember that it's up to you to think about how you can help yourself. Just remember, you control your life, and we all make mistakes, and those mistakes are how we learn, because from ignorance and through learning do we gain knowledge.